Hello, everyone. This is the Topology service transaction scene on August 27th. Um, so we finished the proof of concepts both from the topology service side of things and the Rails side of things. And we wanted to sync up a little bit to see if the design works as expected, if there's anything that we are missing, and figure out what are the next steps for that. So um, does anyone want to pick up, like, address the first question? Is the current design document feasible? Like, are there any big gaps that you've seen when implementing the proof of concept or anything like that?
So far, I don't see any blocker, maybe except that I don't find a way to actually claim before Rails starting the transaction. And everything else seems to be working fine to me. There are some edge cases that we need to fix here and there that I believe that some records were deleted not without any hooks, probably by deleting in cascade from Postgres directly, so it's not going through Rails. Then it's bypassing the cleaning process. But there are some of like that. Besides that, everything looks fine to me. So maybe the main concern we should figure out is that is it okay that we claim inside the transaction?
So I guess let's address that. So you said you tried active record hooks. Did they not work? Like, what problem did you face with that?
Like even with before save, Rails already start transaction. So I can find a way earlier than Rails starting a transaction. We could probably check before validation, but that might be too early because I can see that we actually put quite some of the modification with active record hooks too, like in maybe before save or before validation, we have a few ensure some kind of data within the process. So we cannot run this too early either. Otherwise, we wouldn't collect all the changes too.
Okay, so before save and before create, is before create also uh,
Yeah, I think
opening the
so.
transaction?
Yeah, it seems like Rails start the transaction once we start the saving process before everything. That's my observation.
Okay.
So, in order to do this before transaction, we probably need to use our own service object to run through the process, which will be a case by case thing.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking that we can keep cleaning inside the transaction for those which are fast enough, and for things which takes too long, we update the code so that we go through a service object process. Then we can control when we start the transaction and when we start cleaning.
So my concern with that is a fast transaction can become slow at any time, right?
Okay, could be,
In
yeah.
this in the sense, it could be a network IO, a network issue. It could be a topology service issue. It could be a lot of things. Um, and even this will prevent us from doing any quick retry logic. And so if we create like the network is fallible, right? It fails all the time. So even if we get a network timeout or like 500 error or something, we should have some quick retries. It doesn't have to be with massive backups or backoffs or anything like that. Uh, but that would just make the transaction even slower. So, and yes, we're not gonna be creating a lot of transactions for claiming, like we're not gonna be claiming a lot of things, but it is also a DOS vector, like imagine a scenario where people just start hitting a specific endpoint that claims a lot of things. That will end up like potentially hammering topology servers, which will potentially end up slowing down topology servers, which potentially end up slowing down the transactions, then hammering the database. So it will end up in a lot of cascading failures if we put IO in the transactions. And this has been a problem for multiple times. Like in the past, like we were uploading object storage artifacts and or chunks inside of transactions, right? And that bit us in the ass. Like it didn't bite us in the ass like as soon as we deployed it, but like after a few months or a few weeks of
Oh,
this running, it ended up slowing us, like ended up causing an incident because network is slow from time to time, and we should be reliable around that. And like having network IO during a database transaction is not ideal. Even if we have timeouts and things like that, because a timeout is on a single transaction. If we have a bunch of slow transactions, it's still going to cause issues on the database anyways, no matter the timeout we have. So, yeah. So the service objecting, how do you envision that working?
a lot of code might need to be rewritten because it also means that we cannot rely on active record hooks. So those data which change during the hooks will need to be extracted and put into the service object. And everything will need to be explicit too, because it also means that we need to collect the changes manually. So it could be a lot of work to do that.
Okay. And is like it's something like after validation, a possibility is after validation inside of the database transaction?
I didn't try that. Maybe we can. And in that case, we probably need to look through some of the before hook, before safe hook, and change them into after validation, and make sure the after validation cleansing process is the last one added to the hook. And as far as I know, there is no easy way to make sure that our hook, the cleansing hook, is the last one too. So, so it needs some careful handling too. Even if that works, I don't know if it would.
Yeah.
Potentially, maybe, yeah.
So if we do it in the after validation, you mentioned we'd have to change the order of the hooks, if I understand that right?
I didn't test after validation, so I'm not sure.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that seems like an action item for us to do check after validation of that was
Yeah.
inside of the database section. Okay. Because we inside of our design document, I'm not saying it's gospel or anything, but inside of our design document, we just say we want to validate the model because that's the quickest check we have, and then send the
Yes.
claim and then save it on the database. So after validation seems to be in the right spot, but also depends if that opens up a transaction or not. Um, are you aware if the validation happens inside of the transaction, or does it happen before the transaction?
I didn't test, so I don't know.
Okay,
Should be
cool.
before.
Yeah.
That's good. Then we can try and potentially move all the existing before safe hook into after validation.
So yeah, that's the missing
Mm.
part. It should happen between after validation and before save.
Yeah. So maybe after edition is the right choice. Okay, we'll take that on. We'll investigate that. Uh, Moving a bit back, the create and destroy junction. Do you want to verbalize your point
Yeah,
there?
sure. So I test a few manual process to create a user, create a group, create a project, create an SSH key and GPG key. And for creation, it's all working fine. For deleting, I figured that for deleting GPG key, and then it will also delete the GPG key subkey, but that didn't go through before commit hook. So I'm suspecting that it's deleted by Postgres with delete cascade. And given that it doesn't call the hook, so for now it didn't release the subkey on topology service, which is leaking the claim. And for that case, we need to fix that, maybe force it to call the hooks or somehow try to delete all the associate association, try to delete all the association, because if we know we are deleting the parent, we are going to delete all the children's, then we can manually collect all the clan value there and release them rather than actually calling the hook. That's another way to do it. So there could be some edge cases. Like I think if I remember correctly, for email tables, that's two that was deleted without calling the hook. But for project group, they seem to end user, yeah, for project and group, they seem to be working fine with just releasing the path and route.
Okay, so we have some inconsistencies, but some of the things use the delete cascade, and like I found one for the GPG key that you mentioned that has a delete cascade. So is it safe to say that if the main thing got deleted, which is in this case is the GPG signature, we can delete the claim as well, and assume there's a cascade, or would we have to look at every single one of them?
If all the hooks are called, then everything will be correctly released. Or there's one exception. In GPG keys, it's a bit weird that we are saving lowercase values, but we are overriding the method to make them uppercase. And in the hooks that depending on how we read the data, we could read the wrong value. So that needs to be checked too. Like I fix it by using another way to read the value, but we need to be careful that there can be mismatch.
Okay, makes sense. Cool. And then point number.
Steve,
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
think like this constraint you added, it's wrong because this is like for set nil and it's for GPG
Yes,
signature.
sorry, you're right. I copied the wrong one. That's
No
this one.
worries.
Yeah, that should be the one. Okay. So yeah, that seems like a solvable problem, Genshin, though, unless you disagree. But moving on to point B, uh, data storage layer. Is the claim stable working as expected in topology service? And I guess there's more comments. The pre-host was looking more on the topology service side. Like, is the claim stable working well? Like, do we need to do any major changes, or is it purely just tuning?
Functionality wise, it looks good to me. Not sure about the performance at scale though, because like emulator and local latency, which is all blessing fast, so I don't notice anything locally.
Steve, I don't know yet. like about the data structure and the partitioning strategy for it. I didn't look at that yet.
Okay. And when you mentioned partitioning, are you thinking of doing some partitioning on the tables? Like, why do you bring that up?
Spanner should do the magic,
Mm-hmm.
but iterating through records for the verification is not gonna be compatible with the partitioning on the unique constraint. Because it's gonna be like iterating through different partitions.
Yes, you're right.
So I did not evaluate yet performance characteristic because like bucket value uniqueness, it's fine, it's easy. But iterating on the objects, you need probably different type of the index that is partitioned differently.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know yet, honestly.
Do you think we should start doing some work before we validate that, or do you think that that should be the first item to look at?
I think it's more like along the way, once we start merging stuff, we're gonna learning more about the data structure and look at that in more detail. So I think this would be my course of events.
Okay. So speaking of course of events, what are the next items to look at? I'm gonna share my screen so we can get some kind of agreement what to work on the next week or two. So Jinshin, I guess either you or Boyan will look at the after validation because I know you're going on PTO. So I'm gonna just
Yeah,
assign it to
it will be
Boyan.
me.
Yeah. So what should we start working on first? On topology service and on the Rails application, what would be the first item we can start working on to merge it? Is it working on the database migration or the claim table?
To me, I think that the proof of concept merge request, the giant one, which we can start splitting it somehow and merge part by part, that we know that it is. I mean, I don't see there's another way to do it, so why don't we
Yeah,
just start
so
merging
what are
things?
we gonna split? What are we gonna split? Are we gonna split the RPC first? What do we want to do?
Yeah, the RPC, the message protocol buff and schema changes, things like that.
Okay, so update the claim service RPCs. Boyan, will you handle that? I'm guessing, Kamel, you're gonna be busy with just proof of concepts. You're not gonna do any of the implementation work, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna be probably working a little bit on that. So
Okay,
I think it's more like a joint effort.
we can all have one.
There is actually so much work on getting this merged.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. So I'll do this.
I actually opened a
Okay.
few MRs, like as iterations.
Okay.
So soon today there are gonna be like 4 open MRs to merged.
Okay. What else? So we're gonna update the claim service RPC so we can merge that. What else should we work on next?
I guess database structure.
Database migrations. Then so to make sure I'm clear, updating the claim service RPC, does that actually mean implementing the RPCs or just updating the RPCs and leave them as it is using the null storage?
Just null.
Okay.
I mean the approach that I'm taking is like I'm not using things out of the POC. I'm
Yep.
rewriting that from scratch, and I'm then rebasing POC on top of that when there is like a substantial amount of the changes. So you should always have like a POC in a working state if you need to test further.
Yep.
But I'm rewriting all of that stuff properly with the proper testing for each incremental change.
That makes sense.
So I'm not trying to split POC. I'm kind of figuring out like the steps out of the POC that are sensible as a next thing.
That makes sense. Okay, so update claim RPC using non-storage, database migrations, and I guess for us to test everything, we should set up a topology service with Spanner in production, right? I know someone who's working on this, but I haven't really seen much progress on that. So then we can start running the database migrations, and I'm guessing, okay, I'm just gonna talk out loud here. So database migration, running locally, then hook up topology service in production, hook up database migrations on every deploy, right? Because I'm guessing for us to test things up, we need to test everything with Spanner, right?
I mean, theoretically, like database migration means like adding claims table, but we
Yep.
can hook Gaussian migrate today. We could probably extend health endpoints to ping database as well. And
Yeah.
configure that. So like you could have like a work on the runway side on getting infrastructure in place, and when the
Yeah.
DB migration arrives, like we would just basically enable, like it would actually self-migrate.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna
the main change that I pushed today is like I made a change to a store, basically introducing claim store and database. So I assume that would be like our preferred way to configure stuff. So you would have like an actual tools to configure, even though we would not have like anything useful yet.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
So like we don't have to wait on the database migrations running locally, because that would kind of come once we add tables for claims and other stuff.
Yeah, I agree. We just need them to run in production just so we can exercise the full path, I guess. Do we want to, like, next part to rework from the POC? Do we want to start implement I forgot the RPC names. First,
Begin update.
yeah, begin update, right? It's begin update. What did you say?
So I guess begin update commit rollback. This would be like a list of the three RPCs that should work in the conjunction, because like list stuff can arrive really like as later.
Yeah. So begin update, commit updates, and like update implementation. Let's use this for, right? And then the Rails side of things. So this would be Boyan. I guess we can start having some help from Sangwoo as well, because Sangwoo will be helping out. Database migrations running locally. I'll sign up to you, Camille. Maybe this is a combination between Bayan and Sangwoo. Is there anything else? I'm thinking we should have a recurring meeting working through all of this, just because this feels very complex and a lot of working together. So maybe a sync meeting would be helpful, but I also don't want to add more meetings to you folks. So happy to say let's not do it. What do you think, Brian? What do you think it would be helpful?
I think we can have like kind of weekly, because I don't know for how long you're planning this to implement. So if you're planning this to be in several weeks, I think I don't mind having one weekly sync. And also, I don't know, do we want to put here the Rails thing for these two jobs that we are planning as well?
Yeah. So what race thing do you want to put? So the after validate, that's one of them, and then I'm just
We are
putting
having
your
these
name.
like two background jobs for data
Mm.
verification and also transaction recovery.
Those are edge failures. I guess after we implement the begin commit update, because the reason I'm saying no, because that means that we need to implement the list claims RPC and list outstanding RPC, right? So we only have, so far, we would only have begin update claims. So create claim on the failed side. And so we need to first create a lease table inside of Rails, right? Lease outstanding, I guess it's called, or outstanding table. So this is the
Yes.
database migration we need to run, and start begin commit rollback update on I don't know, we can pick our random model. You want to pick username? Does that sound good to you?
Email. Email.
Email.
Steve,
Okay.
email.
Email. This. Of course, I'm not gonna write it, but I'm gonna write it just in case behind feature flag. I think this is a lot for 1 week. Maybe let's make sure we can try and commit to this week, or like do some work this week and next on this, and then we can reconvene. Like, it's every week, every Wednesday good for you, or do we want to move it every Monday? Just so we can get some guidance.
Wednesday works for me.
Okay.
I guess like it's kind of in between. We can see how far we are and like if we need some help from each other.
Okay. Yeah, I put Turon here. If you're watching Turon, doesn't mean you have to do it, but someone from infrastructure will have to do it. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this list, unless you see anything missing. But yeah. think all of data is going to be private data generation, because there's email, GPG key, organization. Maybe organization would be simpler because that's not going to blow up anything.
Yeah, that
If-
makes sense to me. Something
If,
with the
if you're
route.
talking, Kamil, if
Sorry?
you're talking, you're muted.
Unmuted?
No,
Am I-
Kamil is muted if he's talking, because he was saying something.
Oh. Yeah, I think something with routing makes sense to me. Like organization route sounds good, since there's less data we can test, and email is more sensitive. If we are trying to look through the current data, it might be a bit more. Maybe there will be some concerns.
We can also do routes table.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do routes. Because that's something that's super important anyways for routing. Okay. Anything else we want to go over this meeting? Okay. Boyan, feel free to create issues and things like this if you can. That would help out a lot so we can keep track of all this work. Yeah.
Sure.
Awesome. Have a nice day, everyone, and enjoy your PTO, Junction.
Thank you. Bye bye.